Hey, this is Victor from Reformed.
This is Tony from Reformed.
This is Jake from Reformed.
And you're watching the KingdomCore Podcast.
What did Christ die for you to keep living in sin? All of these violent passions.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the KingdomCore Podcast. It's Sean.
Yo.
Who's here with me?
It's Chris.
It's always. Chris. What's up, Chris?
But
didn't see
you guys might not recognize Sean because his voice sounds better.
It does. If you are watching this, you can see that I have a mic in front of my face. Not that I didn't have one before, but
it was just too far away.
It was too far away. So thank you to our Patreon patrons for sending us some money, and I was able to get quite a few cool pieces of gear to help out with the setup. Got a cool brand new ring light that makes me look a lot brighter. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you. And yeah, give a special shout out to our Patreon members. We got Fabian Richter, Daniel Harding, Jonathan Lyman, Steve Michalowski, Anthony Kuchma, Frankie Blocker, Aaron Peter, and the true fans, the Dead Pedal Coffee Company. Thank you all so much for your continued support. If you guys want to head over to patreon.com/The KingdomCore Podcast or
probably
Podcast.
Something like that.
Search it on there. You'll find it. And we are absolutely terrible with our perks. We are going to change those soon.
We are.
But thank you all just for your continued support. It's amazing.
Yes. And with that, well, not with that, we're going to talk a little, but dude, that was fun. I've been looking forward to that.
So good.
That interview for a while. We interviewed the band Reformed, brand new metalcore band, newish. I mean, yeah, they've been on the scene a year. Chris, what did we talk about?
It's basically brand new.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, no, we got in depth about the recording process and music theory. I mean, that went beyond me, but I know it went beyond you.
You do, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we got super in depth in that, and we also heard all three band members, their testimony.
That was cool.
That was a bit different. I feel like we haven't done many testimonial moments on the podcast, but I think this one called for it, and I think it'll be super encouraging to a lot of you.
Definitely.
And, that was great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we talked a lot about their brand new debut EP, Thus Saith The Lord, as well as plans for a future album, hopefully this year, which going to be so cool. Yeah. So, really, really fun interview. And I guess with that, no, not with that.
We're not going to forget this time.
We're not going to forget this time. If you're new here, we have a tradition of reading a Apple Podcast review. So if you go on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review. Please go leave us one, 5 stars. And you can also write one if you want. And so we like to encourage people writing reviews by reading one at the beginning of every episode. So we have a review here.
So this is from Isaac Park. Excuse me. Hopefully we're getting that name right. It's spelled a bit different. But back in November 11th, he left this review. The best Christian rock and metal podcast ever. He says, I love this podcast. Sorry.
I said, wow, ever?
Yeah, ever.
All-consuming podcast exists, though.
They're pretty good.
They're pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, so he says, I love this podcast. These guys are not shy when it comes to communicating the gospel while headbanging. These contain the best interviews I've ever found. Very cool, informative, and funny. And I will even say edifying. Hopefully like today's episode. I also love the news roundup episodes. We got to do more of those.
We should do more of those.
Yeah, we got to it's been a few months.
To say the least.
He says, thanks to these guys, I can keep up with the artists and bands that I love and learn about new bands that I have never heard of. Very heavy stuff and extremely funny. Keep up the good work, you guys.
Hey, thank you, Isaac.
So much for the review.
Appreciate it. That's so awesome. We're glad this has been a blessing to you and has been edifying.
Yeah, and especially if you guys haven't listened to the last episode with Disciple, that was
that was a good one.
That was very edifying, I would say. So
very much so.
if they're not your thing, because I know we have a wide range of listeners here on the KingdomCore podcast, but in Disciples more of the rock world. But definitely, especially if you haven't listened to them in a long time, go and check out their new stuff. But Reformed, totally different.
We're trying to get them to listen to this episode, Chris.
Yeah. But yeah, so I like the variety that we have here.
Yes, definitely. Well, yes, thank you, Isaac, for that review. And I guess that is a perfect segue into our interview with Reformed. So what's going on, guys? Thanks for coming on. We're really happy to have you guys on. First off, I think introductions are in order. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves, tell us what you guys play in the band, and yeah, we'll go from there.
All right, who's going first?
Go ahead, Victor. All right, I'll jump in now. Victor, you want to go?
Sure. All right, I'm Victor. I'm the singer of the band. Those are the two questions, right? Keep it at that, I guess.
It was a passing grade.
All right, I'm Tony. I play guitar.
And I'm Jake. I play guitar as well.
Nice.
And we do not have a bassist or a drummer.
What?
Wow.
They are ghost members of our band. So
We don't need those nowadays. If anything, the drummer that we put in MIDI just plays better than any drummer in real life. So
it's true.
It's probably true.
Shots fired.
No offense to the drummers out there.
Except for Matt Griner.
There you go.
Can't beat
Matt
Correct.
Grimer is the human
Griner
MIDI
could
drummer.
We can't afford to get him for sessions, so the MIDI's gonna have to do.
There you go.
He put out a MIDI drum kit that you can, like a drum forge.
Oh, did he?
It's pretty legit.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Whenever we see a video of some like insane drummer, we'll like throw it in our group chat and be like, all right, this guy could probably play our stuff.
Is there a list of drummers that you guys think could play your stuff?
Chris Turner could probably play it.
Oh, yeah.
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 And I
Ocean's
think
Eight
that's
Alaska
pretty much
drummer.
the whole list.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's funny. So, yeah, we're stoked to have you guys on. Congratulations on the debut EP, Thus Saith the Lord. It's been out a couple months now. You guys released it on Christmas Eve, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
was it
Yeah.
Christmas Eve? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think
Thank
it,
you.
I think it was. Yeah, it was a nice
thank you.
Christmas present.
Yeah.
How's
that
the
was
reception to it been so far?
It's been awesome. Like it's been great to see people enjoying it, but it was just also cool just to see, I mean, the whole lyrical ensemble of the album come together and actually have like a cohesive, like it's like a concept EP, and just seeing it out first of all was really awesome, but then people enjoying it was a great treat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of it was just, I mean, the project starting itself was just kind of on the fly, so we didn't really know how the whole thing was going to go. And one song dropped after another, and man, it just, obviously the support of KingdomCore, and I mean, just the help from the community, the metal community, the Christian community. I mean, everything just came together at the right time. I think God definitely had his hand in this little project that we had, and we had no idea it was going to get anywhere close to what it is now. So we're still, at least for me, I'm still kind of in shock that anybody even listens to it. So
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's been definitely cool, and definitely want to echo what Jake said and just say we appreciate both of you guys and using your platforms to help us, get out there. So it's been crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can't pass on you guys. You guys are some of the top best stuff coming out.
It's true.
Nowadays, so.
This was also been like one of
appreciate
the
it.
most requested interviews of like the last 6 months. So
really,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
cool.
people-
Weird.
That's awesome.
Yeah, people don't know.
Only
I mean,
existed for 6 months. Wow.
this is probably like your guys' first interview, right? People don't know who you guys are.
Victor did one.
Sorry,
recently,
we
and
did
did
he?
other
Come on,
interviews.
Just
Victor?
one. Yep.
Yeah. I watched that.
It's just
one.
practice. It's been practice up to this
all
point.
right.
Okay, all right. That's awesome. No, but I'd love to hear about, like you said, Jake, how the band just like came out of nowhere. I'd love to hear that story about how the band was formed, because you guys are all very separate. Tell us where you guys are from, and yeah, how that all happened.
Yeah, so I had worked with Victor in the past. I'd seen his videos on YouTube and his covers that he's done, his vocal covers. And I saw that he became a Christian. And I was like, oh, man, I'm into the Christian music scene and I really enjoy worship music. So I was like, I'd love to do a metal worship song cover with Victor, but I was like, he's pretty popular. I'm just going to shoot my shot and see, what happens. And one thing led to another, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. And we ended up doing 2 worship covers. And then a little time went by, and I believe Tony hit up Victor as well and wanted to work together, and they wanted to put out some music too. And then Victor was kind of our center point. He put us both together. He said, hey, I have, both of you guys kind of write the same stuff, and you kind of have the same vision as I do, and wanted to start making some music together. So Victor was really the center point of this project, but he brought us together and was like, hey, would y'all be interested in, starting a band? And we just kind of talked on a group chat, I think on Instagram. We'd never met each other in person. I live in Oklahoma. Victor lives in Canada, somewhere in Canada. And then Tony lives in Vegas. So we still never met in person. We have plans to in the future.
Plans to at a show, maybe?
I don't know.
I can't bring any of our stuff live, so no, it won't be a show.
Yeah. You guys need to find that perfect.
Yeah, you need a drummer and a bassist.
Yeah, we're talking smack on the drummer as if any of us could probably play this stuff live.
Not a chance.
I can air drum it. I mean,
But nowadays you don't
work.
even need to play it live. You just play tracks, right?
Yeah.
yeah. There's
We
a
can
lot of
probably make
bands
that
that
work.
do that nowadays, and it's maybe not as good as a live show, but it still works. I'm fine.
Yeah, in terms of us coming together, it's because I had firstly my YouTube channel, and then I sang "Bury the Light" for Devil May Cry, so that bumped up everything. I started a couple of different bands, and that was before I became a Christian. Then I became a Christian, and over time I just became more and more disinterested with secular music and more interested in forcing Christianity into my lyrics. And I did it less boldly at first and then more boldly over time, to the point where obviously if you do that in a secular band, it's not very much liked. So it ends up not working. So at the same time that things just fell through, I was already talking with Jake to make Victor Borba, Jake Smith original metal music, and also with Tony DiBlasi, Victor Borba original metal music. So I'm like, wait, hold on. Now I have 2 things that are my 2 things left that are doing the same thing, and 3 names is too much for a title of a project. So let's just come up with 1 name. So then it became a band that way. But everything just timing wise just came at the whatever the opposite of a fork in the road is, the bottleneck, perfectly, where all 3 of us were kind of having the same thing in mind at the exact same time.
Yeah. How long ago was it that you guys kind of nailed down what Reformed would become? Has it been a couple years now?
September of 2022. Yeah.
I just got the reminder or the memory that we put out the Psalms song that we did that was actually not Reformed, but it was Reformed before Reformed.
Oh, gotcha.
And I don't know if you guys have heard that before or not, but that came out, I believe, last week.
So
I think we met in February. February
No,
of last year.
we all started talking. I think it was late 2022. It was October or November 2022. I want to say.
Okay.
That we all
Almost
started.
a year.
Yeah, pretty much right around that time, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the song is Psalm 145, a song of praise, where it's the psalm turned into a metal song. And that's the first one that me and Jake were actually starting to write. And then my wife's singing on it as well. And
Okay,
then,
I have heard that one.
Yeah. So that was proto-reformed, because that was it wasn't exactly the same kind of style as obviously the reform stuff is way more intense, but it was the prototype, I guess.
Tony's song.
Yeah.
It was not mine. It was Tony's.
Did I say Jake instead of Tony? I meant Tony.
It's all good. But it was going to be a Reformed song. We were going to use it for Reformed. And then we were just it's not. I don't know. Everything else is so much heavier. But it was a cool way for us to just kind of experiment with mixes and just kind of see how the process went. So it was cool.
That's really sweet. So how long did it take to like kind of get the ball rolling with like completing your first song? Because if I remember right, you guys didn't really show up online with an Instagram account or an online presence until probably, if my memory serves me right, like February or March last year. So there's probably a few months in between, right?
Yeah, because Smoke at the Torment came out in April, and we announced publicly the band in January, I think.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Was it January? I thought it was later. I thought it was like March.
Maybe February.
I thought it was like a month before the
It's like
song
not
came out
even a
or
year
something.
ago.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah, so what?
But we had
somewhere around there.
We had like all of the songs were the instrumentals were all written
Okay.
for the EP pretty much prior to us all even, I guess, talking about the band.
Oh, wow.
And then it was just kind of like a discussion of which songs are going out when, you know. I mean, there was like minor changes to the instrumental, and then Victor, you know, putting all the lyrics together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy how it all came together, but it all worked out.
Yeah, because
sick.
Smoke at the Torment and Martyr were Tony's songs, and then Reprobate and The Conqueror were Jake's songs. But that's like, they had written it before we even came up with the idea of Reformed possibly being a thing. And even like Thus Saith the Lord was written before Smoke at the Torment and before Martyr in terms of chronology. Wow. And it was just like, it was the songs that ended up just working together and tied together to the lyrics. But there was a question.
Yeah, because we like switched between, are we putting out an EP? Are these just going to be singles? Is it going to be an album? And then I think we all just decided, like, I don't know, a lot of what we're about to put out, I feel like it sounds a little bit different than, I guess, the EP. It still has kind of like our same sound that we already have, but I would say maybe a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more modern maybe.
Okay.
I feel like some of that stuff was like very like mid 2000s, maybe 2010s metalcore kind of vibe. And I think
awesome.
Everything else is going to be a little bit. It is cool. Yeah. We all dig it. We're all getting old, so yeah, that's our vibe.
Well, and that was kind of like the cool thing about this project was like, you know, we've never met, so it's just for fun. Like it was our hobby, and so it was kind of like, you know, we don't really care who listens to it. We're going to make music that glorifies God.
Amen.
We're going to headbang to it and listen to it really loud. And truthfully, who cares what subgenre of metal it is? Like, if it sounds good, we're going to do it. We don't have a record label. We're not trying to push for numbers or anything. Like it was purely for fun. So to see how it turned out is like makes it even sweeter, because it's like we're having a blast doing what we're doing, and we're still getting to know each other. So, you know, the best is yet to come.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
No, that's amazing. Like, and that's cool how it all came together, because this is not to dunk on any other bands at all. Like, I don't really like to compare and rank as much as it tends to be with pages like ours, but like I gave you guys the EP of the year last year. Like,
hey, I did too.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Like, it was,
thank you, man.
Just, I don't know. It's so good. It's so cohesive, and it's just a perfect blend of like God honoring lyrics and like Reprobate, where it's very convicting, and you just got a whole complete message in there, and then combined with the sound of the music itself. It's just, you guys are all so talented, and yeah, absolutely amazing work, and I cannot wait to hear what's next.
I'm so excited.
Thanks, brother.
Really
appreciate that.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
The last year we had like zero game plan when we did set out. It was literally like, let's just put out Smoke of Their Torment, and then we'll get the ball rolling, and then we'll figure out the rest. Like, that's really how it went. And you know, like in terms of like the mix and master, obviously, well, not obviously, but Jake handles all of the mixing and mastering duties. And it was kind of like, you know, maybe like small changes to each song as they came out, but it wasn't drastic enough that it didn't like all make sense still on the same EP. But I guess where I'm going with this is like we've refined a process that I think, it's just been that was like a trial run last year, and I think that we all have like a really solid process going forward. And so, yeah, we're all stoked. We got a lot of music on the way.
Because if I'm not mistaken, you guys said something about you guys were wanting to put out an album this year. Was that the plan, or was I misreading that?
That's the plan.
That's the dream.
Yes.
We'll see if we actually can.
That is the dream.
Easier said than done. But.
The idea was an album last year, and we only managed an EP, so we'll see actually what happens.
Yeah.
So if the plan is an album this year, maybe we'll get 2 albums.
Yeah.
Jake and Victor are both thinking if we get the files from Tony on time, then maybe we'll get a couple album.
Oh man, that's awesome. I wanted to. Chris was talking about just how awesome the EP is, and I want to echo that. There's one part that I just have to ask about because it's my favorite moment on the album, and it's at the very end of "Thus Saith the Lord" when you guys have the callbacks to the other 4 songs. I mean, that is it ties together the whole EP so perfectly to where the EP like a lot of EPs feel really incomplete just based on the fact that they're usually between 15 to 20 minutes. So you're like, I could easily listen to another 20 or 30, but for whatever reason, it ties it together so perfectly that it feels complete. And I would just love to know, like, what was that intentional? How did that, like, who had the idea to do the callback to all 4 of the songs previously?
All Victor.
All
That is the brains on this guy. It is all Victor, man.
Let's
Yeah, I
hear
mean,
it.
lyrically, it's all like, I'm the one handling the lyrics.
Okay.
So, in terms of the thematic like cohesiveness from the last song, it was kind of just the idea. We have these 4 songs. Tony had written this much longer song, which where would
longer
this fit
than like
with
8
our-
minutes?
Oh, I mean, like it's longer than the one I'm talking about. "Thus Saith the Lord," right? So
Okay,
it was
all
like
right.
written already instrumentally, and we didn't know where to put it. Like, would this fit on the album? Would this be like it could have worked as the last song for the EP? And then we ended up deciding, this would work as number 5 for the EP. "Thus Saith the Lord" is like a very powerful title. We can talk about how pretty much everything we're saying here is what the Lord has said. And then in terms of I mean, that was the general idea, but then when I listened to the song, I found that the chorus kind of sounded like "Smoke of Their Torment," and I'm like, I cannot imagine another melody, so let me just steal that melody. And then I'm like, oh, that gives me an idea. What if I just like not come up with new melodies and just copy myself? And then it ended up working out where like every section there's like a triplet section that it switches into, and like, oh, that's perfect for Reprobate, and I can make it work for The Conqueror. And then there's a calm part for the Martyr. You know what I mean? Like it's everything worked perfectly. So I'm like, okay, well, it seems like this is how it's gonna be. And then in terms of lyrics, I just went in order of the song releases as best as I could. Reprobate and Martyr are swapped, but then I just added lyrics before and afterwards in order to make it a cohesive message. And the thing is, like, when it comes to these lyrics, like, I don't like take credit for making the lyrics come together and stuff like that. I like it. So I handle the verses that I use and I put them together, and then I end up like just seeing that it works out. It's almost like my hands aren't even on it. So I look at the end product. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Like that's how it kind of feels to me. But it ended up working out pretty well.
So wait, with those,
And I just want to chime in and say, because that sounds like a lot. People are probably like, oh wow, it took a long time to write. He did that in like 2 or 3 days, if I remember correctly. Like I sent him the song, and he's like, yeah, let's use this one. And then like 3 days later, sent this basically full demo of it. And Jake and I are just like, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
did you guys write all the tracks in the same key? Like, how does that work? Like, did you have to transpose any of that? Because I haven't listened to it back to back enough. I'm using all this.
So
I wrote everything in the same key.
Okay.
And then
So it works out. It works out.
Nah.
There's like,
I
have
think
you
Tony
heard
and I
me
went
sing?
Tony
Yeah.
and I went through like 40 pairs of strings, constantly changing the tuning of all of our guitars.
Yeah, let me give a little background
Yeah,
on that.
that's another reason why we can't play live. We would need like 20 guitars each.
You need a guitar
least
tech
for
for
minimum.
both of you, like just tossing you a guitar.
That or we just
Yeah,
both
yeah.
get 10 strings and just
Yeah,
learn how to play
exactly.
those.
Because here's the thing, Tony, when he writes, he just has his guitar tuned to B flat, and he just writes in it. And I'm like, okay, that's cool for Smoke of the Torment. And then the next song he writes, like Martyr, is also in B flat originally. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Next song is also in B flat, and I'm like, okay, I have perfect pitch. I can't handle
and
this.
by the way, the whole new album I'm writing in B flat too. So, yeah. but we can. But the cool thing is, like, yeah, we can change that, and I'm not thinking it like from a vocal standpoint. So if Victor's like, hey, this would sound better in this key, whatever, let's switch it up. You know, I'm sure Jake can agree that like changing tunings constantly to write is like not an efficient process. So, you know, just getting the idea out and then we can change those things later on. It's not.
Well, and I think with Victor, like you have enough range, like you have much more range than most people I ever hear. So like, I think you can make it work. It sounds like it's, you know.
Yeah, it's a compliment to
Each song's
Victor. I mean, he can literally sing songs in E standard all the way down to drop Z. Like he just makes it work.
I want to hear Drop Z on the new album.
That's Victor.
But yeah, I mean,
There will be a drop Z song on the new album. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, there is.
keys in terms of like vocal range. Yeah, that's not really something I worry about because my range can cover it. But for me, because I have perfect pitch, so when I have the same key constantly, it just like is like uncreative to me. Like I can't come up with new melodies because it's just all in the same key. So like for example, Martyr, I'm like, okay, this would sound way cooler if it was in C sharp or C, just because like put it up higher, it's different. And when I went like arranging our like plan for what the album could look like, I'm like, okay, these two songs are the same key, they can't be next to each other. Like to me, I want to hear something different. That's just how it works. But then since Tony writes all the songs in B flat, I'm like, okay, well we can keep this one B flat. Like thus, Saith the Lord has the solo that's already recorded. I won't like make you change the key and have to go and get it re-recorded. Like that's fine.
Yeah, thank you.
That one can be flat. But then
Well, I also, sorry to interrupt, but real quick, I also had my buddy track the solo for that. I wish I could take credit for the solo on that thing, but that was my buddy Jordan Rush. He did the solo like back in 2022, and I wasn't gonna hit him up and be like, "Hey man, can you like retrack this?" So that was that. Anyway, sorry.
yeah. So then Reprobate, Jake originally wrote it in A, and I don't know. To me, just A minor C major is like a really lame key in terms of melodies. So I'm like, one semitone down. Let's do it, and it sounds cooler to me. It's just something. And then yeah, Martyr. It was the melodies that I wrote. They were a little low in B flat. Like okay, bump it up to C sharp. It's gonna be way more powerful. Okay, cool. And then the Conqueror was already in F sharp. I thought that was fine. So I'm like, okay, cool. Now my ear is happy with all the keys. And then when it came to Thus Saith the Lord, the whole song's in B flat, of course. So I had to like transpose all the melodies so it would fit.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you were
And like
excited.
B flat to F sharp is a pretty big jump. So I actually completely changed the melody for the Conqueror when I like re-sang that part. Like if you were to like see what intervals am I actually singing, it's completely different, but it worked. I was like singing the harmony or something.
That's sick. Well, we got super music theory.
Yeah, that went way over my head. No.
Jake and I are just like we like breakdowns, man.
Translation: Victor is a really talented.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
100%.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask because you guys keep saying like Jake, you wrote one song, Tony, you wrote another. For this next album that you guys are doing, are you guys collaborating on like the same songs, or are you guys trying to come up with as many as you can? And when you do, how do you take like a rhythm to lead guitarist, role, or how does that dichotomy work?
Jake, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So, like Tony said earlier, most of the songs or actually all 5 songs that were on the EP, we had separately wrote those ahead of time. So before we had all met, we'd had those songs. Tony and I had the songs wrote. This upcoming album, I believe we already have like a list of songs that are going to be on the album.
Okay.
We had to pick and choose. We're keeping a few off. I won't give too much away, but we have more than 5 songs already planned and written We just need to get them re-recorded and get the tunings figured out for what's going to suit Victor best. But as far as collaboration, it's still going to be mostly me writing a song and then Tony writing a song, and then we'll just bounce ideas off of each other. We do have plans for at least one or two of them to be maybe like a Skype or something where we can, do riffs off of each other and just kind of build a song together. We definitely have plans for that. But being, him being in Vegas and me being in Oklahoma, it makes it kind of difficult to really, truly write a song from front to back together. So we bounce ideas off of each other regardless. I mean, if something sounds cool, we'll stick with it. And if something doesn't, maybe if Tony has a better suggestion, we'll go with that. But it's probably going to be pretty similar to the same concept as the EP.
Sweet.
I think it's also it's cool that Jake can write the whole song by himself. He doesn't need me to help, and vice versa. And because of that, it brings a different vibe to the song. I think everything blends well. People might not be able to guess who wrote which song, kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's kind of cool to just you do your thing, I'll do my thing, and then I'm sure if we were in the same city, we could actually get in a room together and write. That'd be one thing, but it's just so hard. Even just schedules, just to trying to align some time where we could write together. I think what would probably work best, we haven't tried it yet, but is I'll write a section, send him a file, he'll write another section. We'll see how it goes. Maybe it actually would be really cool, and we'll write more like that. But yeah, it's just tough. The distance is tough for sure.
That's cool. I don't know if you guys would be comfortable and willing to maybe talk about your guys' testimonies a bit. I know Victor has a really kind of interesting different side. I would like to hear it, and I know there's a lot of people that would, but with Tony and Jake, have you guys been believers for, lifelong, or are you guys newer as well? Kind of where are you guys at with that?
Yeah, I mean, I can knock mine out pretty quick. From a young age, my parents were always involved in the church. They did a really good job at, I want to say, raising me the right way, showing me what's important, what's not. And they're really great people, and they're great examples for me. And so, props to them. I'm who I am today because of them. And I'm trying to raise my kids the same way that they raised me. And so, like I said, I grew up in church. Every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday youth group growing up. It was at a church camp when I was 10 years old. I felt the conviction of God speaking to me really for the first time. And my dad knew that something was up, because I was kind of at the age to where I've been going to church long enough to understand, what it is to give my life to Christ. And he came and talked to me one night after the tabernacle that we went to, and he's like, "What's up?" And I just remember feeling it. It wasn't oh, it's just the right thing to do. It was the Holy Spirit was talking to me and putting the conviction in my heart that it's time to do this thing, to profess him publicly and to take that step. And so that night I prayed with my dad, my pastor, who was at the camp with us, and accepted Christ that night and made him my king forever. And really since then, I've always been involved in churches. Grew up playing guitar and drums and bass in youth group, and then in the main services and stuff too. So currently still involved with the church. So it's not as crazy of a story as Victor's, but I know where my eternity is going to be spent, and I'm forever thankful for that and the sacrifice he made for me to be able to spend the rest of my life in heaven. So.
Amen.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, thanks,
Tony.
for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll share mine quickly. I would say it's pretty similar to Jake's in that I was born and raised Catholic, and I still am a practicing Catholic. But I guess I never had I don't have a testimony like Victor's about to share. I guess where it was one defining moment, but I will say that when you're born and raised in the faith, there's maybe, at least how I felt, to me, it was like less conviction. It was just kind of like going through the motions as I was younger. Like, all right, I go to church. You know, I guess like, yeah, when I was younger, went to youth group kind of thing. You know, follow the 10 Commandments. It was just like very baseline. You know, like my parents did a great job raising us and trying to, you know, instill that in us. But to me, it was just, I don't know, I didn't feel very convicted in it. And it was always just like a thing where it was like, I'll address this like later, like if I really believe or not, kind of thing. And then I stopped going to church in, I don't know, maybe throughout like COVID, I think it was, I stopped going to church, for a couple of years actually. And, I would actually attest a lot of like me deciding to pursue my faith more seriously, a lot to even just working with these guys, because I can tell how convicted they are in their faith. And I had just kind of started to, live my life in a way that wasn't consistent with, you know, being a good Christian. And I started to feel that, and I started to like have a lot of guilt and whatnot, because I just started to know like, all right, I'm not living my life the right way. And then got back into church and just, you know, cut out all the nonsense. And it's been powerful. So
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man.
I'm still a work in progress. I'll leave it at that.
We all are.
We all are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, dude. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, because my situation is completely different because I wasn't raised Christian. And I really appreciate, like, I really admire the idea of like children being brought up in youth where they come to an age where they just assume the faith, like they like they're always in it, and then at some point they look towards their baptism as like their assurance and they move forward in it, right? So then that's something really beautiful, that at some point you step into that faith that you were instilled with growing up. And in that way, like people are used to like talking about, it's a very American thing, like a born again experience where someone is like, oh, well, when were you born again? And a lot of people will say, I'm not really sure, because I mean, I just became more mature over time, right? In my case, completely different, because I am actually a convert to Christianity. I'm not just someone who like became more mature in Christianity. And in fact, I was like a militant atheist, like a really annoying, like I'll debate every single Christian I find. And Christianity is not just wrong, but it's like stupid and foolish. Like I look down on Christians,
I hate him,
and
right?
yeah, he's not real and I hate him. That literally was me. To the point where I look back now, like I didn't go to a Catholic school because my parents are Catholic, but it was just like, it was the nice school in the region. And in Ontario, Canada, there's a public board and a Catholic public board. So it's essentially like the better schools are in the Catholic one. So my parents just put me in that one. But like we went through the motions, learning the very, very basics, but of course not being taught anything outside of the very basics from school. You're not going to become a Christian. So when I was like entering high school, that was around the same time that like Reddit atheists and like the cringy like YouTube atheists became popular, and I just like attached to that as my identity. And I'd get in trouble in school like debating, and like I truly believed like atheism was true, and like I argued it properly and well, and I felt dismayed that the Christians were not able to defend themselves very well. So I was even more like sure of myself. But then by the time I came to university, I stopped really caring about it, because everyone in university is an atheist. So I'm not special for like standing up and being a rebel. So I stopped really thinking about it. But anytime I would come by a Christian, I would be like, oh, well, look at you. You believe, you know, like what a foolish man. I'll say it nicely. But then in 2020, when everything shut down and locked down, we were all hidden away from anything in the world that could possibly distract us. And I began to have like a self-reflection where you're kind of alone to yourself and not distracted. So you think like, am I right about all this? Because like I was comfortable just saying that I'm a piece of flesh that will dissolve into the ground and that'll be it. And I was thinking like that's it. Like a secular humanism, I can figure out my morality for myself. I'm nihilistic, but I'll just figure out my purpose and it's fine. I'll be successful in life. And that'll be my purpose. But then I realized, is this truly the answer? And I felt completely empty. And the reality of nihilism struck in where I'm like, this is not a productive way to think about life. And I wondered if it's actually true. So in that time of like my graduate studies being halted, I couldn't go into the lab to do any research. I was just like playing RuneScape all day. The dread just week after week became worse and worse. And I went online to try and find some sort of answer as to like what I'm supposed to do to live up to my expectations, like my role to be a husband and father in the future, right? And I stumbled across a guy who it's interesting. So his name is Elliot Hulse. He used to be a non-Christian when he made this like lecture thing. He wasn't a Christian, and now he's actually a devout Christian. So like he listened to himself the same way I listened to him, and we both converted or assumed the faith. But essentially, he gave like it was like 12 rules for being a man or something like that, or 12 rules from my father, I think what he called it. And he said the rules, okay, these are good. And he said, okay, well, these 12 rules are from my father, from his father, which is to say like he got these from Bible. So like biblical principles of how to be a man. I'm like, whoa, it's like, that's really interesting. My entire life, I thought Christianity was stupid, but now I'm hearing that there's actually something it's very clearly beneficial. And then I started to self-reflect. I'm like, okay, all the like YouTube commentators that I now watch, I stopped watching the atheist people because they got really repetitive and lame, and a lot of them just became like really weird liberals. All the conservative commentators I watched were Christians, and they all had a good hope in life and good family values. I'm like, man, this is who I want to be, and they're getting all this from like Christianity. So there must be something here good at the very least. And it's kind of the Jordan Peterson perspective. Okay. Now I don't know where he's at right now, but he's kind of like live as if God is real.
Right.
Which is like, okay, I mean, that's something you could do. And I can see the benefit of that. Now, even though I don't believe it's real, at least I can like live as if it is. And I think my life will be better. But obviously that's not enough. And that's not like sustainable because you're lying to yourself. But I began actually looking into scripture, and I was in awe. Like I remember I was just on vacation in Toronto with my family, and we were in an Airbnb, and I was just like up all night pretty much scrolling through passages of scripture. Like I searched like Bible verse about, and then insert whatever word it could be. And I was so amazed at the wisdom in here. And I looked up like these proverbs were written 3,000 years ago. What? Like the Sermon on the Mount is giving me something that was written 2,000 years ago. How is this possible that it's so relevant and so amazing? So I could see there that I was becoming way more open to the idea. And I had never prayed before this. And I've been told all my life, like, why don't you try praying and talking to God? And I said, well, I mean, I'm just going to be speaking in my own head. And maybe if I pray, I'll get a good idea, but I'm just going to be like meditating in my head, right? But then there was one day where I was truly like extremely down in the dumps. Like I was like parked on the side of the road, like after leaving university. I was depressed, like really, really distraught. And I started to pray to God. At first it was like, God, are you there? Like, if you're there, give me a sign, like the typical thing. But I became more and more desperate. And there was a point where I was like genuinely like crying out to him, like in desperation. And what I felt, and I understand now, like God was making self-evident his presence on me, because like I was filled with the Holy Spirit, like very, very clearly. Like I felt the embrace of the Holy Spirit and the warmth and the love. And I'd never had any spiritual experience before. But that moment made me realize that there was more than just a physical. There was a spiritual like realm, if I want to use that word. And like my eyes closed, opened up my eyes, it went away, closed my eyes, and I felt the exact same thing again. So I tried debating myself as a chemist, like, oh, that must have been some hallucination that I felt through. But like, no, like it was a fully conscious, like, experience that I felt with God. And that completely threw me into like a complete shock. Like I woke up the next morning and I was a complete zombie. I had to take the day off of work. Grad studies, university, call it work, but I was in university. Completely shocked because, I mean, you can imagine my entire worldview was completely put into question. I thought there was nothing spiritual at all. It was just physical. And I went on to YouTube, and for literally like the entire work day, like 8 hours straight, I was just watching atheist to Christian testimony videos. And they were all saying literally the exact same thing, where they were nihilistic atheists. At some point, they were feeling super depressed and down. They cried out to God, and they felt the exact same warmth, and they used different words. But if it was the day before, I wouldn't have been able to connect to it. But they were saying like literally the exact same thing that I could relate to. And I was just in shock, like, okay, like this is clearly something that happens to people when they convert to Christianity. And this seems like what I had been reading up to this point must be true. Like this is the testimonial of what the Bible is witnessing to. And I went back to scriptures, and it was like scales fell from my eyes. And at the beginning, like I didn't have like a strong justification, like of apologetics to understand like this is all true because blah, 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 blah. But I went back to scriptures, and it somehow like scales fell from my eyes. It all clicked, and I could tell that it was all true. Like I'd read the words on the page, what Jesus was saying, like that he'll send the Holy Spirit and lead you into all truth, like all these things like that. And I was like, this is true. And I was in a little bit of like just a blissful euphoria that I'm like, I found the truth. But then it set in that, wait a second, I've been blaspheming the God who is my creator. I've been blaspheming him my entire life and denying him and like spitting on him. And then I just felt like the entirety of like all possible guilt I could ever feel. Because even though I didn't know the extent of my sins, I didn't know I didn't even properly know the gospel that well, but I could at least recognize that I had been breaking the first commandment, which Jesus talked about, which is love the Lord with all your heart, right? Mm-hmm. I greatly destroyed that commandment. And I was so filled with guilt. So like emotional roller coaster of like depressed, extremely happy, extremely convicted. And I was thinking there like, man, for what I did, God needs to just abandon me. Like, I need to be thrown into hell right now because I was just so bad. Like, wait a second. Didn't God soften my heart and call out to me and call me home, even though I did this? Like, what I'm explaining now is so obvious to a Christian, but it's like, that's the gospel, right? Like, we don't deserve anything, yet God calls us effectually anyways, right? And I'm like, and I was just like, wait, this is, he's my father and he's calling me home. Like, this is amazing. And then I was just so filled with joy. And then as I studied more, it became more clear what the truth of Christianity is. And I've been studying now pretty much nonstop for 3 years. Like I replaced all my media consumption with just listening to sermons and teachings and stuff like that. So even though I've been a Christian for only 3 years, I feel like an old man. And I just matured more in the faith, and I can go back to my old self and absolutely destroy him in debates if I could. But like that's pretty much the story. I just developed more in the faith and became reformed in my theology like as of like this year. And
then reformed in the band.
Yeah, I mean the band name is not because of my reformed theology. It was just kind of a good funny coincidence. But
that's so.
We can
awesome,
talk about
dude.
the name after. But that's I went for a long time about my testimony. But yeah,
no, dude. Thank you for sharing. That was incredibly encouraging, and I'm sure people listening to this were also encouraged. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like that testimony makes me want to like get a 4-today breakdown going and just mosh as hard as possible because that just gets me hyped, dude.
Yeah,
like that is.
I'm ready to run through a wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's an awesome testimony. It doesn't discredit mine or Tony's, but like to see somebody go through something like Victor went through, like a huge life change like that, man, that just like gets me pumped. And I know heaven's rejoicing as well. So it's like, I don't know. It just gets me excited.
And I feel like that's a common theme, at least because I know like my testimony is similar to you guys. Growing up in the church, just, went to Christian school. My grandpa was the pastor of the church I grew up in. Like, typical, Christian kid, you're always around it. And yeah, whenever you hear somebody's testimony like Victor's, where especially now you said like within 3 years, you've done so much studying and growing. And like, I hear you talk and see like the lyrics you guys put together, and you're doing Bible studies on some of these songs. And it wasn't until the last, like maybe 5 years. I'm almost 30. I'm 29. So it wasn't until I was about 23, 24, even though I had been a Christian my whole life, it wasn't till then that I was like, dig into the word more. I should like study more, grow in my faith and understanding more. I felt like a baby Christian, even though I had been a Christian for like 20 years almost. And I think that's a common theme I see a lot of the time with people kind of converting to Christianity, like especially with such like a dramatic change like that, where you were a staunch atheist converting, and you're able to come into it and use that insane brain that God gave you. Like, we all have that, but like, you had such a scientific outlook, and you were able to like dig in and find the answers, like the truth that made sense in like an intellectual way, beyond what I feel like a lot of us who grow up in the faith do a lot of the time. Like, I'm not saying everybody's that way. I think I see that's a common theme a lot of the time. But yeah, so hearing that kind of a story is just, it's almost mind blowing. Like, it is mind blowing, but I've heard some like that before, but it's just so cool hearing it. And especially being in this type of music and this scene that we're doing, and being able to now use that gift. Plus you already had that amazing gift of your voice prior, and then being able to make that change and using it for God is just, yeah, it's awesome. So thank you for sharing all that.
Thanks, man. I mean, when it comes to the more that I studied, the more that I recognize that like, it's not my doing at all, because like God chose me out of the world first, as he does to all believers, right? So when I hear things like, oh, that's an amazing testimony, I like it's pointing to God and what he does, right? Mm-hmm. So I take no credit for it, because like I literally did nothing. He called me out. Like, it wasn't me being smart enough to think of like, oh, Christianity is true. Like, no, if my scales had to fall from my eyes for me to realize that, it's because he took off the scales. So all glory to him. And the thing about, I think God gave me my platform, gave me the opportunity to sing on like the Devil May Cry theme song that is just insanely popular. Like, I don't even comprehend how that even happened. But what that gave me was a platform to now use for God's glory. And I mean, who else other than, not to say that's like, oh, I'm so special, but it's like this platform, this particular style of metal vocals that I did. I mean, like, I have to do this now. Like in my position, who else would be able to like sing on the Devil May Cry song and then make a Christian band? Like, I'm the only one who's sang on the Devil May Cry song to be able to do this. So it's like, I'm stepping into that now, and it's just, it's I'm really grateful.
So cool. Were you aware? I wanted to ask, were you aware of Christian metal like before you got saved?
I mean, I knew there was like, oh yeah, this band, Devil May Cry. Devil Wears Prada. Like, they're a Christian band. I'm like, okay,
gotcha.
But like, I didn't really think about it too much.
Right.
But I also didn't really pay attention to lyrics until I became a Christian. Then after I became a Christian, I kind of like became so uninterested in metal, because I went back to listen to like all the covers I'd sing. I'm like, I said that in those covers. I'm like, oh, what? And then I like unlisted a bunch of my videos recently, but like, it's just, yeah. So I wasn't really aware of Christian metal. So
just on a random side note about the Devil May Cry song, it was really funny. The church that I was attending with my wife just last year, it was a random conversation. I was talking with the pastor's son, and he's older. He's like 20. but we were talking about gaming because like we are both gamers, and it came up something about Devil May Cry, and then he's like, "Oh, have you heard the song from Devil May Cry?" And he mentioned Victor Borba's name. Like, this had nothing to do with Christianity or faith. Like, he was just like talking about the game and the song, and then I was just like, "Oh, I know Victor." And he's like, "What?"
Hard brag.
Yeah, and I'm like, I've been talking with him. I'm like working on him with some artwork for his band, his Christian band. And he's like, "He's a Christian now? What?" And it was just like, it was just so funny that just how that comes about.
Yeah, so many people come to my page now are like, "Oh yeah, I'm so motivated," or like Virgil something, Devil May Cry. They make a bunch of puns like that, and they come into my Discord with like Virgil profile pictures and like, yeah, and then they look and they're like, "Wait, everyone's just talking about theology and verses. What's going on here?"
That's awesome.
Bible study, what?
Yeah, for those who don't know, Victor, he got to sing what's the I'm sorry, I'm not a gamer. What's the name of the game?
Devil May Cry.
Devil May Cry
5.
And that song has like how many streams on Spotify? It's like
90 something million.
90 million.
And then on YouTube, there's a bunch of uploads, but one of them has over 100 million. It's insane. Like,
Sheesh. Victor's famous. That's what we're trying to say. That was awesome. Yeah, thanks again so much for sharing that. Looks like we've probably got about 10, 15 minutes left. I'd love to hear like what future plans do you guys have for the band? Like, do you guys have a plan to do this for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years until you guys just stop making music? Do you guys have any plans for even like maybe trying to expand the band into 4 or 5 members? You know, maybe do a couple shows here and there. What future plans do you guys have?
I'll let someone else talk. I talk too much.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, why not? Honestly, no, we haven't really talked a ton about future plans. I think we're just, with the EP, it was just like staying focused on what we were doing at the time. Right now, our focus is to just, get the album finalized and put it out. We're all, obviously with being in different, states, different countries, even. And then, that just makes really planning for too far out pretty challenging. We all have our own careers. These guys have families. Like to do this, I guess, beyond what we're already doing, we're not even discussing it at the moment. I won't say I won't say never, but I just really don't see how that could logistically be possible.
For sure.
As far as bringing in like other members, we're not necessarily opposed to it, but I think I don't know, we just have such a good rhythm going as far as like writing and getting things done that, and just with drum and bass MIDI, like we can do it all. I mean, it would be cool to have actual musicians playing it, but it's not an absolute necessity.
Right.
So I think, for right now, I don't know if the other guys have felt like, wait, we're not playing shows. No, we've talked about that. I don't see it being a possibility, but you never know. Yeah. So as far as planning goes, we're really just thinking right now, get this album out this year. It's going to be next year before we know it. And that's really our focus right now.
Yeah, we definitely don't know, because I didn't know that. And this is probably a spoiler, but it's going to come for the people who watch KingdomCore. Maybe we'll post about it, but I didn't know we were going to hit 1 million streams in 1 year across all platforms.
Wow,
our 5 songs.
Whoa, I did not know that.
Hit 1 million streams.
That's crazy.
So
I
didn't know that was going to happen
Spotify,
either.
That's wild.
And so to say that we really know what's going on, we don't.
I was DistroKid, they give updates. I was like 2 to 3 months delayed, but it's already at 920. And it's not including YouTube, and YouTube has over 150 or 200 total. So it's
congratulations!
Yeah, we're over.
Yeah, congrats, guys.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I will say to just, I guess, maybe tease everybody out there a little bit. We do have some pretty killer features lined up, vocal features lined up for the album upcoming. I won't drop names, but
Familiar faces.
several
Can we get one name?
familiar faces for sure.
No.
We can't do that, man. But several features. It's going to be really cool. And Jake kind of hinted at this earlier, but there's there's plans for us all to meet in the future, and yeah, maybe create some content while we're at it.
Ooh.
So,
All right, I like the sound of that.
As far as plans go, that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, and then, I mean, you asked like how long do we plan on doing this? I mean, the fact that I can literally record in a booth, and it's just that's just awesome.
Yeah.
And especially since the metal vocals are like really grating, I'd have to train a lot to be able to do a tour or like sing live. Even like any one of these songs that we record, like I'll lose my breath in like 2 minutes and be like, okay, that's enough.
Did you ever perform live in any of your other bands?
I've never sung live.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Like at least metal, I've never sung live. Like I've sung karaoke and stuff, but I mean, like,
I got to live once for 30 seconds, like on stage with the band, like pre set up, and yeah, I was so nervous it just did not go over. And it was in front of a bunch of youth group kids too, and I was like, I'm gonna try screaming, but yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was
it's
done
not
after
about the
30
nerves.
seconds.
Like, nerves is not the issue. It's just like,
Yeah.
I know that like metal vocalists, they have they have to be really careful. And even when I'm recording stuff, like I go really hard for an hour, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a break because like I don't want to damage myself or hurt myself. And if I were to be, I mean, also another thing too, like we all have jobs and we all have families and stuff, like so it's not really feasible to make it. Oh, we're like
I was going to mention
tour.
that too. We talked about that before we started the podcast, but I mean, I've got 2 little kiddos at home, a full-time job. Victor's got a full-time job and a little boy at home, and then Tony's got a full-time job as well. So, I mean, this is, you know, is as much as I hate to say it, it is our side project. You know, it's our hobbies. We love doing it and we love making music. So, I feel like we're going to keep doing it as long as we can.
That's what I like to hear.
So,
as long as I can continue to produce screamy sounds, like I don't know.
After that, we're just gonna become a worship band, dude. As soon as you can't scream anymore.
I mean, that'd be totally feasible. Just do like clean vocals the entire time.
Yeah.
Like,
I noticed
sound
that
like Holy Name or something.
Oh,
yeah.
Or you guys could do like a stripped down acoustic version of all these tracks. Yeah.
good.
Or I mean, we could also
Responsibility.
just like feature other people to do the screams if I really this is the scream part.
That's what
Like Holy Name.
Dude, we're not even gonna talk about this, dude. Victor's gonna be screaming in like his 50s.
Exactly.
We're gonna have like 20 albums out by then.
I do notice though, like touring singers, you look at their albums and it's like the first ones have screams, and then as they get older, they just do less and less screams, like Avenged Sevenfold or Architects and things like that. So I noticed that, and I wonder, like, if you're a non-touring vocalist, how long can you go on screaming? And I think it's way longer. So like, I don't think my voice is gonna become dead if I don't tour and I'm 50. You know what I mean? So I think I can continue doing all this as long, like, worst case, I just record for 30 minutes at a time rather than an hour and a half. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could do this until I'm literally old and frail and like my voice sounds like this. You know what I mean? Like,
And I feel like part of that. I feel like part of that with touring vocalists is probably like because they do those songs every night over and over and over again. Like you hear it like a billion times. So as long as you guys don't listen to your songs like too much to be on recording, it'll be good.
Yeah.
Well, that was amazing. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And
100%.
yeah, congrats on the 1 million streams and the amazing EP. We can't wait for the album. And everybody go and check out Reformed if you haven't already. And yeah, absolutely amazing, guys. Thank you so much for all that you've shared. And we'll be on the lookout. Is there any last minute plugs you guys want to give it all?
listen to the EP. If you go to Linktree/Reformed Metal, you find all our stuff. But we have 5 songs. Each song has a Bible study. Each song has a lyric video. We're going to drop merch soon.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just follow us on Instagram. That's like our main place.
Sick.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you guys.